Hello everybody. Oh, it is 7:49 p.m. right now on January 19th of 2018, and the wind is whistling outside the window. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but Saturn just 1 minute ago, Saturn just moved to 13 degrees and 37 minutes of Capricorn, which is exactly where it was at the moment of my birth. And I wanted to just take this time and I wanted to capture in real time during the exact moment of my Saturn return what I am feeling and what I am experiencing. Saturn often delivers very hard life circumstances, like the death of a family member or the end of a job. For most people I know in my life, almost all of them have lost their job during their Saturn return. And it's just such a feared time by so many people, and I'm just glad to say, for me personally, that so far nothing terrible has happened, and so I do feel some relief in that. Right now I don't really feel the heaviness of Saturn, but as you guys can probably tell, I feel pretty happy. I kind of feel like I have accomplished something, you know? So I've reached this moment now in my life where Saturn has moved through every single degree and every single house in my natal chart. And with each movement of Saturn, I've learned about all the different areas of life. I've learned about what it takes to succeed on Earth. So I feel like that's an accomplishment, because my whole life I have tried to live by Saturn's rules without even really knowing what Saturn was about. But my whole life I have tried to be so mature and so responsible with my resources and so responsible with my time, and I have tried really, really hard to rise to every single occasion and every single life lesson. And I was thinking earlier today that I actually think that I kind of like Saturn. I've come to respect everything that Saturn represents. I've come to respect this idea that life is about learning, and I've come to understand that all throughout life, everyone is given exactly what they need for their growth and development. And I have come to sort of look back at my life and at the most difficult moments and at the most challenging moments that I ever faced, and realize that those were the moments of greatest growth, and those were the defining moments in my life. And so I don't know if I'm in one of those defining moments right now, maybe I am, or if I'm on the eve of one of those defining moments, but I do feel a sense of strength. I now have the knowingness that I can make it through difficult times, and that I can kind of take what life hands me, and I just feel kind of a weird sense of sentimentality. Saturn's full return to this place that it was when you were born, it means that you completed your childhood, and my childhood was kind of really difficult in some ways, especially spiritually. If you watch my life story series, you'll know that. And yet, I guess what I'm kind of most proud of is that I never ever gave up. And no matter how hard of times that I faced in my life, like, I always managed to keep faith, which is one of my big life lessons with North Node in Pisces, to keep faith and to believe in something better, and to believe that something better lies ahead. And to the best of my memory, I've never tried to run away from responsibility. In some ways, I think I've run towards responsibility at different times in my life. So the next couple days, the next couple weeks will reveal what my karma really is. The next couple weeks will show me. I think that's when I'll really get my answer. Okay, based on how you performed so far in your life, here's the life circumstance that you get next. And I'm just kind of trying to remind myself that whatever happens is meant to happen, and I am trying not to force anything to happen. I'm trying to take things so slow. I think the past couple days are some of the most lovely days that I've ever had, actually, because I'm on my Saturn return vacation, and I haven't really been using technology, and I haven't been answering email, and I haven't been working, but I have been reflecting on my purpose and where I would like to go from here. For me, the Saturn return is very significant because it's not only Saturn's return, which is really a significant astrological transit, but it's also activating my YODs in my chart. And the YOD transits, I think, are as significant as a Saturn return. But yesterday I took some of my extra time to study the YOD book. Yesterday I read the YOD book aloud, which is about how to deal with YODs, and I sort of came up with these pro tips to try to help me deal with this YOD transit. The YOD energy is really, really hard to cope with, and it's really, really hard to hold in your physical body. And so I decided to try to remind myself how to best deal with this YOD energy that I'm living in now. One of the tips listed in the YOD book is to let things take their natural course and to not respond to the anxiety that can be caused by Saturn or the anxiety that can be caused by YODs, but just to let things unfold as they will, and to actually not react to life situations, but just let things play themselves out. The YOD book talks about how YOD activations, which I'm having 5 right now, that YOD activations often lead us into jams in life where it seems like we have nowhere to go, and that in moments where we get backed into a corner, a new life direction or a solution we had never thought of before often opens up. And so I've been thinking, am I going to get put in a jam? What does this jam look like? And I just keep reminding myself, like, I'm just trying to prepare myself for anything that might occur over the next couple days, and just remind myself to not try to force anything to happen. Remind myself to just let things take their natural course, and remind myself to tune into what I'm really feeling and experiencing, and to act with integrity, and to drop all expectations. That was in the YOD book, but I think it's also really good advice for the Saturn return. Just to drop expectations, to drop plans altogether. I don't have any plans. I'm just showing up for the experience as it is. That I have here, I just went out and bought this evening. I have this Serenity and Calm candle. It smells so good. Lavender and thyme. Oh yes, it's so good. It's so good. And that's what I need, I think, is a little bit of serenity and a lot of calm. I do feel kind of excited in a way. Nothing has really happened yet, but there's just a feeling that something is gonna happen. And I know that it might not be a good thing, and yet there's just so much energy building. There's a feeling in the air of just anticipating something that's to come, and I have that feeling, and Zaire also has that feeling. This feeling of like being on the edge of something, but not really knowing what that something is. It feels kind of like standing in the dark alone in the forest and maybe waiting for a car to come pick you up, but maybe you don't know who's driving the car and you don't know where the car is going to take you. That feeling that you might have, and just being there in the silent, in the dark on your own, and wondering, where am I going? And also wondering, am I safe? And did I make the right choice? And that type of thing. And it's kind of a feeling like that. But one thing that I've learned here during my first Saturn cycle is I've learned just to trust in life. I've learned that no matter how crazy things seem, no matter how dramatic things seem, that there is divine intelligence that is orchestrating life, and that everything makes perfect sense in retrospect, and that nothing is random and nothing is happening by accident. I have this kind of joy, I would say. I have this kind of happiness that comes from knowing that no matter what occurs, that it is exactly what is meant to be, and that it's bringing me closer and closer into alignment with my soul. And I think that's what I really like about Saturn, is that Saturn works for our soul. There are some planets that function a lot more at a personality level to give us a certain experience of ourselves in this lifetime, but Saturn is about evolving our soul. I just feel like I've grown personally. Like, I feel like I've matured so much during my whole life, but during this first year of Saturn, I feel a sense of strength. I feel a sense of wherewithal that I didn't have before, a knowingness that no matter what life presents, like I'll figure out a way to work with it, and I'll figure out a way to manage it, and I'll figure out a way to succeed. And I did things this past year that like I never ever thought that I would do. Like Zaire and I paying off thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of debt, and me doing that as an entrepreneur and as a psychic with income that comes from doing spiritual work. That has been such a Saturn initiation. I never ever thought that I would be able to do that. I never thought we would accomplish that in this year, but I think it's the energy of Saturn that kind of allowed us to do that super sense of discipline and determination. And I think that Saturn teaches us that hard work really does pay off. Saturn isn't a planet of miracles and sudden windfalls, you know, it's not Jupiter, it's Saturn. But I do think that Saturn does reward hard work and does reward effort and does give us results. And that's why I like Saturn. I think I've come to understand in myself at the end of the day that I never really have respected teachers that are really easy. I've never respected people that just hand over praise and acclamation, because it bores me and I like to be challenged. And I think that Saturn is a planet that challenges us. And when we're not really challenged, we never know what our strength really is. We have to be kind of pushed to our limit to understand what our limits are. And a lot of times I think when we believe that we're being pushed to our limit, we're really not. And then we find out actually that wasn't our limit. And we have so many more resources and so many more talents and gifts than what we ever knew that we had. But it's only by going to the edge that we discover what the edge of our being is. And that we can learn to expand beyond that edge. I'm grateful for this life. I'm so grateful for this life. I'm grateful that this life that I'm in hasn't been easy. I'm grateful that I have all these YODs, because they're incredibly chaotic and they cause so much anxiety, they cause so much searching, and they cause so much inner conflict. And yet learning to live and thrive and create in spite of all of the internal conflict. Learning to live within that energy of restlessness and instability and insecurity that YODs cause, and learning to channel that energy for productive purposes has really, really helped to evolve me. It's really helped me to realize one of my other big lessons, which is that life doesn't have to be perfect, or things don't have to be perfect. Like sometimes you just have to take what you have or what life hands you and do the best you can with it. And I feel like Saturn has given me the opportunity to learn to do that. Saturn has thrown me into a lot of life circumstances way before I ever thought that I was ready, or when I was really young. I started working full time when I was 13 years old, like running a family business. And Saturn saw something in me that I would have never seen in myself. Saturn said, you are ready to do this. Saturn said, you have potential at 13 years old. And I would have never believed that I could do that, nor would I have ever chosen to do something like that, to work so hard at such a young age. And yet I grew so much, and now I've been able to become an entrepreneur because of the growth that I had in that experience. And so I'm just trying to remind myself now that whatever Saturn offers up, that it's going to produce those same type of results. Like by rising to the Saturn occasion, it's going to make me so much stronger, whether it's in this lifetime or whether it's in future lifetimes. The lessons that Saturn teaches us are enduring lessons that stay with us for a very long time. I think that they're lessons that become imprinted on our soul itself. And so it's incredibly worthwhile. Like our Saturn learning is incredibly worthwhile. In this moment, in this exact Saturn moment, I feel kind of emotional. Like I feel a weird sense of awe, I would say. I feel kind of like, I think how I should have felt when I graduated college, but how I didn't feel at that time. But it does feel like a graduation. It feels like a graduation. And I've definitely made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I've definitely had times where I really acted out of ego when I shouldn't have and stuff like that. But overall, looking at my life as a whole, I feel like I've really done my best. Sometimes I've been completely misguided as to what my path actually was, but I always walked the path that I thought was trying to reveal itself to me, you know, and I always tried really, really hard not to do harm. And I've always been enthusiastic about learning. I can remember being a little kid when life would get really hard, I would actually get kind of excited, and I'd be like, yes, here we go, here's a lesson, here's a learning moment, here's a learning opportunity. And I think that energy still lives within me. I feel like Saturn has given me an amazing opportunity to know myself, and to break free of limitations. A lot of people will say that Saturn has to do with limitations, you know, and putting limitations and restrictions onto you. But I think it's not in the way that people realize. Saturn isn't really preventing us from moving. That's not what Saturn's doing. Saturn is giving us a focal point through which, so we can expand in that particular area to come to know our potential in that area. I feel like that's kind of what Saturn does. It says, no, you're not going to go over there. You're going to stay right here. But while you're here, you're going to learn everything about who you are in this particular area. And I don't know, you guys, I really like that. I really think of Saturn as being that really, really hard personal trainer, but the one that really, or coach, but the one that sticks with you because they really do see what you're capable of. And they push you that hard because they want to see you rise to your very best. Like, they want to see you rise to your very best, and they won't accept anything less than your best. And I think that there's so much love in that, and that it's really, really admirable. And I'm really, in this moment, I'm really feeling so grateful to Saturn. I'm glad for the Saturn return experience. I think life without Saturn lessons, it wouldn't be the same. And Saturn's what keeps us on path and keeps us on purpose. And we need that. We all need that. We all need that kind of tough love sometimes in our lives. We need it, even though it's not fun when it happens. Without it, we could so easily get so far off course, or get so silly, or get so irresponsible. We would regret that at the end of our lives. We would regret that we didn't learn the hard lessons. So Saturn gives us those lessons to keep us on track. And I hope that I'm on track right now. I don't know for sure if I am. I don't know for sure if I am. I trust that somehow in the big picture, in the grand scheme of everything, that Saturn is keeping me on track, and that Saturn is continuing to do what Saturn has always done for me, which is to help me expand beyond the limitations that I believe that I had, and help me to know my true potential in this world. And the discovery of that potential has been extremely important for me. Saturn has shown me what my gifts are, and in doing so, Saturn has given me the opportunity to be able to offer my gifts to the world. But if it wasn't for Saturn, I would never have even discovered the gifts, because I would have been too afraid. And Saturn has made me face my fears and do things that I would have never, ever, ever challenged myself to do. Saturn has given me an awareness of my worldly competence. Saturn has revealed to me qualities and characteristics that maybe lived within me the whole time, but that I would have never come to know or recognize without my Saturn initiations. I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful for Saturn. My heart is full, really, looking back at my life and everything that I've learned and everything that I've grown from. And I've just grown so much, and I've evolved so much, and I've learned to trust so much more in myself, but also trust in life. And I've learned to not be afraid. And you know, of everything, that's the greatest gift, is just learning that. Sometimes facing our fears is the greatest liberation. And sometimes when we're put in that situation that we fear the most, sometimes that's the greatest gift. It's almost always is. When we're put in the situation that terrifies us the most, that is the greatest gift, because when we walk into those situations that we fear, and we face them head on, we can lose the fear, and ultimately becoming fearless, losing that fear. That's the purpose of life. That's why we're here.